Okay, so everybody, welcome to this episode of the Zen Teachings podcast. I'm really excited today. I've got a great friend of mine, Alexios Pathenos. Alexios is joining us from North Carolina.
How are you?
How you doing, man? You good?
Excellent, excellent. Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm excited to talk to you today. There's a little bit of background for people who don't know you. Alexios is a really successful attorney in North Carolina. He and I went to law school together. We were on the moot court team together. We studied for the bar together. We stayed in a crummy hotel together.
We did.
And what happened back in 2009, Alexios had trouble passing the bar the first time. There were a couple instances like that. He's one of the smartest guys I know.
Well, I'm fooling you somehow, sir, but thank you.
We studied together, so I know all of the material he was doing, and so it was kind of thought that maybe it might be a mindset kind of issue going into taking the test. So I suggested to Alexios that he come to the dojo and practice. And like a lot of people, a lot of you, he really didn't have an interest in martial arts. He didn't have a background in it. Thought it wasn't for him. But I just give it a shot. What's the worst that could happen? Come in and let's work on some of this discipline. So I thought it would be a great opportunity to share your story and just kind of fill in what meditation, mindfulness, being in the dojo, how that affected you, and let's see where this goes.
Absolutely. Again, thank you for having me. This is quite an honor and quite a pleasure. And I'd like to preface by saying that what I learned and continue to carry with me from the practices at the dojo, I know are effective for me and were incredibly, inestimably helpful for me. If that can be pertinent to someone else, wonderful. I don't know. I can only talk about what that means to me.
Well, tell me about your first, the change in mindset. Tell me where you were the first time we took the test.
Okay, the first time we took the test, just to give a really brief background, I don't care how smart you are, how much you prepare, whatever. It's a 2-day test. It's everything you've ever learned in 3 years of law school. It is hard. It is stressful. There's no two ways about it. There's no way you can talent your way out of it. It is hard. And I remember knowing you from school. We were on moot court together, and we're like kind of study buddies and things like that. But I remember going in naturally pretty terrified, and it was a crummy feeling. I think you mentioned we were basically holed up in a dingy apartment, deciding whether to stay up all night doing flashcards or actually maybe eat food and get sleep. I think you chose the healthier version.
I never miss meals.
I don't know. But so needless to say, we had prepared for months, and that became our life for that time. And then it all comes down to this one sort of culmination over 2 days when it's time to perform. We both studied like beasts. You're brilliant. You passed it with ease your first try. Not so much with me. And I like to believe that I am and was at the time a big boy. I can handle that. I've had my fair share of buoyant moments in my life, and certainly shortcomings where I failed in a sense. But this one was different. This one was maybe that first kind of, for lack of a better word, traumatic moment in life when, I put all my eggs in one basket, didn't get them. Now what do I do? I was fervently going back to the drawing board I was determined to study twice as hard as I did the first time. And in a lot of ways, I put in more hours. And I didn't know it. A lot of times I think again, I can only speak for myself, but when someone's acting a different way or stress is building up to where it's changing your day-to-day behavior, I'm the last one to see it. And I'm very fortunate for our relationship, Rudy. I think you noticed it right away. and you suggested something that I didn't really care to hear. You said, I do this thing. I go to a dojo. As you know, I've been practicing martial arts virtually my whole life. Yeah, whatever, I thought. So I humored you and agreed to go one day. And I said, look, I don't know about throwing punches. I don't know about throwing kicks. I don't care. I'll watch an MMA fight or something when it comes up. Other than that, it's not something I've ever been interested in, whatever. But I'll humor you. And you said, fine, but that's not what we're going to do that day. Which was weird because I remember taking off my shoes, going to the mat, and we sat down together, and everyone was kind of lined up. And then we just listened to a man talk. I didn't throw a punch. I didn't warm up. Nothing. I learned nothing about the actual mechanics of martial arts. But I can vividly remember what the lecture lesson was about. And it was, I didn't know how lucky I was to be there that day. It was the first time ever in a dojo, and I got to hear Sifu speak, listen to Sifu speak. Wonderful. And he said something that to this day sticks out in my mind. He said, look, you're either, with whatever you do, whether it's throwing a punch or whether it's the work that you do, or if it's the way you eat, sleep, just down the board, you're either putting trash down or picking trash up, simply put. And then you kind of pause just to process that a little bit. And this is something that I've heard you discuss numerous times. I think on your last podcast, you were talking about Siddhartha, things like that. And quite frankly, for lack of a better way of describing it, it pissed me off when he told me that, because I thought this is kind of, maybe it's just my natural sort of contrarian mindset. I was like, nothing in life is that simple. I remember thinking of the movie Donnie Darko. There's a scene with Jake Gyllenhaal, a young Jake Gyllenhaal. And he has to go, a teacher's trying to explain to him that there's only love and hate in the world. And he goes to the class and he's frustrated. He explains that it's far more complicated than that. And yeah, I think he gets kicked out of class or something. That was kind of my mindset, where it's like, look, there's this man with a belt on, and he's telling me that it's either one or the other. And he is doing this in a dojo, but he hasn't lived life outside here. I mean, this is what I was thinking at the time. Nothing is that simple. And I carried that with me for a long time. I was thankful that you brought me along to the dojo. I checked it out. It was probably until 6 months later that I was really in the heat of starting to retake the bar. And again, you were seeing signs of something that I wasn't. And you, in a very, I think, tactful way, gave me a nudge to come in, have a couple sessions on the mats. And you said it with a lot of confidence. You said, if you do this, you will perform better. You're going to pass the bar. Okay, whatever. And I remember going there, and a lot of that same mentality that I had going in, and same mentality I have now. I didn't really care about throwing punches. Didn't really care about a more focused guard or anything like that. But what was different was that we were starting off sessions with meditation. Number one, that was different. That was sort of unexpected. And that started to make a lot of sense to me, where when I wasn't as interested in the actual physicality of what we were doing on the mats, this part started making sense to me. And it wasn't meditation that I saw in the movies, where you think about something and you see a vision. This was, don't think about a damn thing, okay? Think about your breathing. That sounds simple enough, but I really thought that probably never, and I don't mean this as an exaggeration, probably never in my life had I been awake and decided I'm only going to think about inhaling and exhaling. Sounds so simple, right? I don't think I'd ever done that before.
Right.
I didn't walk out with some revelation. Virtually, I experienced nothing, but it was a slow, incremental, very incremental thing that um, revealed itself throughout the next day, the next week, the next month. And I realized slowly, 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 somehow I was a little more focused. I was a little more, and I mean this in very, very slight increments, slightly more patient, not as driven for immediate results. That's another problem with the bar exam, or really anything that anybody's doing. I'm picking the bar exam, but you name it, your job or the amount of sit-ups you want to do or whatever it is. We live in a time, and again, I can only speak for myself, immediate results are awesome. You want that thing now. We pick carrots that can get to us as soon as possible. And this wasn't that. So that summertime of martial of practicing was a very slow roll. I didn't get immediate results with anything. You could probably guess without saying how that bar exam at the end of my training worked out. I am a licensed attorney, by the way. And I can go into that all day. But first and foremost, I really want to thank you for getting me that first invite to the mats. And whether you knew it or not, there was a lesson learned there that I still think about to this day. And nothing is so simple as it's either love or hate. But what the lesson of either you're putting down trash or picking it up, it's much more refined. And the more I live with that, the more it just makes sense. It is true. That's a simple fact. It's the tough one to swallow, but it's real. It's as real as anything. If that makes any sense to you.
Well, yeah. I mean, it sounds like, I mean, the idea of either picking up trash or putting it down obviously stuck with you.
Mm-hmm.
We say all the time, you know, you can either decide the universe is for you or against you. I mean, one of the main things is that there's no necessarily bad news. You know, I mean, there's just experiences, and then there's how you respond. And what people tend to do is they react, and they react without taking that pause. And what I saw in you is somebody who had helped me through law school, who I'd come to when we had exams, and you're explaining concepts to me and everything like that.
By the way, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I'm going to be an ass about this. We had Jimmy John's for a brief period of lunch during the second day of the bar exam, in between the two essay portions. Briefly, I'll just say that there's like 3 hours of essays. You get a second for lunch, and then there's another 3 hours.
I remember that. I had tuna.
And well, I remember something too. I remember, I don't care what you might think, I taught you wills, trusts, and estates, that portion of the essay, and I did it while you were eating a tuna sandwich. And somehow you remained focused and much more.
Well, and that's, I'm glad, I mean, that's absolutely
you nailed that essay. I taught you that.
Yeah, you did. I don't deny that. And then we had a question about it.
We did.
So the point, so that's why when I saw you having trouble passing it, I know this is stuff you know because you taught me, you know?
Absolutely.
And so I really believed that it had to be something going on in your mind in terms of just responding to the stress poorly.
Yes.
And overthinking everything. And
yes,
it seems like that ability, the focusing on the breath, really kind of helped turn a corner. How many times did you take the test?
I attempted it 3, actually sat down and completed it twice.
I mean, I want people to understand who maybe aren't lawyers, who haven't taken the bar, that takes, Alexios is a very strong person. I mean, doing the bar one time, I remember we're sitting in the Breslin Center at Michigan State, and on the first day, in the first couple hours, some girl starts crying and just runs out of the test. I mean, it's stressful the first time. You know, you have,
You enter a ball of human stress, and it's all
yeah,
on a basketball court. That's what the Breslin Center was for people who might not know.
and
It's
you've got 2 days.
arena basketball court full of human cesspool stress.
Yes, and you've got 2 days. You take this test either in July or in February. Then you wait months until you find out. And if you don't pass it, you can't do anything. You
Nope.
know, so a lot of people have a hard time even once. So I want you to, you know, for anybody listening, try to put yourself in the position of studying for this test from May to July and not going the way you want it to go. You don't find out until November. And then gearing back up and having the tenacity and having the perseverance to actually sit down for it again. And I remember when I found out you didn't pass, I was thinking, I don't know if I could retake it. And then
Of course you could.
a second time and a third time. I mean, that's something that's admirable in and of itself. And that's the kind of drive and refusal to be beaten, which is why you're successful now. You just had to learn to channel all of that intelligence, all of that focus, and be able to call upon it at will. And that's one of the things for me for meditation. I've never claimed to be the smartest person in the room. You know, I try to surround myself with smart people, but I do think I'm very good at not reacting. You know, if somebody says something, and again, I've said before, it doesn't mean nobody deserves to be punched in the face, but if I do it, then I'm choosing to do it. It's not a look what you made me do kind of thing. It's this appropriate response. And so I knew that if you could really just be who you are in that moment, even under that stress, you would have the success, you know. And I was really honored that you trusted me enough to give it a shot. And I think it's awesome that it's
Well, I didn't appreciate it at the time, and it's taken me much longer to appreciate it in retrospect. How lucky I was to sort of be escorted into the mats. It wasn't my idea. I was very fortunate to have you around, to bend over backwards at the time, because I was pretty reluctant to do anything other than hole up in my room and crank out hypothetical multiple choice questions. Yeah, not a lot of people would have thought to do that for me. So I'm forever in your debt for that. I mean that.
Well, I thank you. I appreciate that. I would do it again without a question.
I'm not taking that test again.
What do you? No, there'll be other stuff that we can help each other out on, I'm sure. What do you think? Because as somebody, I understand, and one of the reasons that I wanted to do Zen teachings as opposed to opening another physical school, because I understand there are people who just have no interest in martial arts. I get it. Like, I mean, I'm not a basketball player, and I don't have any interest in becoming a better basketball player. You know, but I think that if you look at people that are successful in different fields, there's a common denominator, and that's that ability to focus. So how do you, in your mind, I mean, given that, and I don't take it personally, that martial arts in terms of the technical aspect of it is not something you have an ongoing interest in, how would you tell somebody then that this is possibly for them, even if they don't have a natural predisposition? You know, they have kind of, because we think we watch UFC, we watch MMA, that's what it is. Maybe you've seen the Karate Kid.
Yeah.
You know, that's not for me, that's it.
Yeah.
So what was it that made you turn that corner? You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's an excellent question that I'll attempt to address. The physicality of hitting the mats is what I learned for me was that it was arbitrary. What I like to do in my own time is I like to hit golf putts on a putting green. Hit golf putts. I like to, no pun intended, or no reference intended with Karate Kid, but I like to add shiny wax onto my car. I do. It's a meditative thing. I like to flick my earlobe. A lot of what we were doing on the mats is arguably, at least to me, as arbitrary a physical challenge as any of those other things. Um, and a lot of times that's as arbitrary of a physical challenge as getting better at sitting in a chair and focusing on stressful questions. So if what I gathered from throwing punches and having a level of accountability to be at the dojo and practice really again had nothing to do with the maneuvers, for lack of a better word, themselves, but
We prefer technique, but I
the
got you.
technique. I knew you were going to correct me. I'm sorry, everybody out there. We'll edit that out in post. But if I could learn to focus my mind on throwing as clean of a front punch as possible, that I can apply to that can translate into a putt on a putting green, or the way I focus on a client at work. I'm not even kidding. Literally, the way I wash my car. It sounds silly, but
No, I think if I can just
very
jump in, you have an understanding that people practice for years and they don't get. I mean, you will if you stick around long enough, you're going to learn how to fight. You know,
true.
but that's a consequence. That's not why you're there. You know,
Yes,
it's really the ability to put yourself in an uncomfortable position and maintain the focus. And what you took out of it, the whole goal, because I mean, hopefully, right, we don't live our lives in a way that you're physically fighting. You know what I mean? So that's
correct.
it's secondary. You know, hopefully you're not physically getting into altercations every week and having to defend yourself. If you, as a consequence of your practice, can defend yourself, then that's bonus. But that's not all of it. You know, the dojo, in what I saw, where I believe it would be good for the bar, is it's meant to be kind of a test lab, if you will. I mean, you go and you put yourself under these stresses,
Hmm.
and you see if you can maintain being Alexios while Rudy's throwing a kick at you, or Rudy's trying to, you know, can you maintain
Yes,
calmness? Because if you can do that, then you can certainly do it when you look at an essay question, or when somebody
absolutely.
cuts you off in traffic, or when the Starbucks person gets your order wrong, or whatever it is. It's maintaining the person that you are, no matter what the outside stressors are. And it, like, you boiled it down beautifully, and you know, you didn't practice that long. You know, so you really you took what it's all about, and I think that you had physical, tangible results. And again, that's you're passing the test. That's awesome.
In that case, I did get the quick carrot where I did have a tangible result, say at the end of that summer or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to be clear that that is not why I feel like it's relevant to share my story. That I practiced um, diligently. I'll use that word. I think it's safe to say I diligently practiced for several weeks and got this at the end. It doesn't work like that. I'm not trying to promote that sort of instant gratification. In fact, it's the reverse. It taught me um, the slow roll, which really in my life I wasn't used to that level of patience, and I still haven't figured out anything. Just to be clear, I'm incredibly impatient on a day to day. I'm putting down garbage and
Yeah.
forgetting to clean any up. So I'm by no
Well,
means, it's definitely a working process and always will be. If being at ease with that, that's the kind of game changer. And that's where meditation and things like that certainly transcends what's happening on the mats.
so is it something? Do you think that now? I mean, obviously you're practicing.
Yes.
You're in your career,
Hmm.
and we're not physically together anymore. I mean, you're in North Carolina. Do you still? I know you said that some of the things Sifu said stuck with you. Some of the practice. I mean, how does it play a role in your everyday life now?
Well, I think one thing that maybe isn't every day, and this is just my own personal promotion, every time I read, I read Siddhartha's stories about Siddhartha, or Zen and the Art of Archery. Every single time I open that up, which is sometimes a couple minutes a year, sometimes I'll go through the whole thing. That is always a new lesson all the time. I'm not really answering your question. Your question was, how does that apply? Maybe more every day.
No, you're
Every
doing.
day, I know that I'm doing. I think I don't know how to describe it. There's a certain method of meditation, or maybe mantra repetition, whatever you like to call it, where it's I am doing insert thing right now. I am talking to you right now. I'm washing my car right now. I am stuck in traffic right now.
So the ability to really be in the moment and appreciate what you're.
Very, very simple.
Mm-hmm.
For me, very difficult to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's an incredibly difficult task. But knowing it, and knowing that, really, what am I doing? I am sitting in traffic. I'm applying wax to my car. I'm talking to a friend. I'm talking to a coworker. That's what I'm doing right now. As simple as it is, that was so far off track. Just to go back to the bar exam, for example, it wasn't like in my top 20 of things to pay attention to. I had 1,000 other things. How long should I pace myself on a 15-minute essay when I know that these 4 subjects are going to come up, and how to sort out that information in an efficient way? Yeah, I wasn't thinking I'm writing an essay right now.
And I'm glad we're done with that, man.
Yeah, me too. I don't recommend it to all you listen.
No. Be a firefighter. Do something else.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I find that I struggle with that myself. We all do. Being in the moment it's one of. I mean, it's cheesy to say, but it's so simple, but it's not easy. You know what I mean?
It does sound cheesy. That's
We
kind of what I was
all,
hoping to get at with the movie example.
in our we're always thinking about the next big thing and what's happening tomorrow, and we're never really right here, right now. And it's one of those things, like, you go to dinner with your friends and you're all on your phones. I mean,
Yeah.
nobody's actually in the moment. So I mean, I think that being able to do that and keep that up is it's huge. It's just not, and we're not set up that way. I mean, we can't do anything now. We're so interconnected. And one of the things I take from the mats is that it's a cell phone free zone. I mean, if I'm sitting here, if I'm sitting in work, I get notifications in my email. I get somebody liked something on Instagram. I get text messages. I mean, you're always somewhere else. You're not actually where you are.
Yeah.
That's not going to serve you at all, in terms of fostering a relationship that's useful, in terms of finding success in a task that's challenging, and so it takes a discipline to overcome that, to overcome the natural setup of our society.
Absolutely. Well, we didn't really plan on this, but whatever I have going on, my 2 cents worth. That's boring stuff. How's your practice, sir?
We talk.
How are you?
My meditation.
Yes.
I'm staying busy, man. I have a pretty regimented practice I've had for a long time. And the reason I do is I find that when I don't, I can tell. My family, everybody can tell if I haven't been to the dojo in a while, or if I haven't been meditating. It's evident very quickly. And I think that one of the things that people have a misconception about, and you can see in some of my posts and some of the other talks, I mean, I don't in any way preach happiness. And I don't think that if you do this, things are going to be smooth. There's going to be storms, and there's going to be potholes, and there's going to be, life is always going to punch you in the face.
Yeah.
What you have the choice to do, and what my practice does for me, and why I would never give it up, is it allows me to choose how to respond. You know what I mean? Because you can't help, there might be layoffs and we all lose our jobs. there may be a sickness in the family, and a loved one is facing, you know, something terrible, or maybe you are,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and that's gonna happen no matter what. And so one of the things that I really try to do and is not worry about things that you can't really control anyway, and where it's not obvious that worrying is going to do anything to change the outcome. So it's a long-winded answer to your question, but if you're asking specifically, I do about an hour a day of meditation. I'm in the dojo 3-4 days a week, and I am always I push myself, and physically, if it's sparring or if it's in the gym lifting. Man, I think that you've got to really find a way to be comfortable in the uncomfortable. You know, I do
Mm-hmm.
stuff that I find to be scary, you know, and I do it until I'm not scared of it anymore. You know, and you've got to just keep pushing, keep doing, because when the tests really matter, if you and I are sparring, if I win one night, so to speak, whatever you want to call winning, or you
Yeah.
win the next night, it doesn't matter. Nobody's going to remember that probably tomorrow. Certainly not a week from now. Certainly not a year from now. You know, you're not going to say that time I beat you. I mean, who cares? It's irrelevant. You know, but what you will always take with you is how did you respond, and how were you able to maintain your focus despite having these external things coming in. You know, and I mean, like I use a sea analogy all the time. There's going to be storms, and at least meditation gives you a frickin' rudder and a
Mm-hmm.
sail. It doesn't mean you're going to control the wind. You're not going to control the waves. So stop trying. You know, I mean, the bar is still coming. You know, the bad news is still coming, but at least you've got a shot to fight for it and try to stay on course. And I find that while I do get blown off course like anybody else, if I have that baseline, I know what that center is, I can notice a little bit earlier, a little bit sooner that, hey, I'm off track. You need to get back over here. You know, as opposed to all of a sudden I'm way in left field and I don't even know what's going on, feeling lost. So that's why I think that practice is so important. And it's something that, you know, why I was excited to talk to you is I think that everybody should do it. I don't think everybody, I do. I'm not going to lie. I think everybody
Of
should,
course. Promote the
but,
product. Yeah.
but, but, but I know they're not. I mean, my
I know.
parents
Yeah.
are not going to come and throw punches and kicks. They're not, you
Yeah.
know, and there's just, they're not interested. What I want though, is I don't think there's anything you can possibly do that if you don't take that discipline. I mean, I know you play hockey. If you
Mm-hmm.
don't have that discipline, you will be a better hockey player. You can add the same benefits, the same disciplines, the same rituals to whatever you do, and it will make you better. It will make you a better husband, boyfriend, wife, daughter, son, anything, employee or employer, if you are in control of what you're doing. And then that's really all it's about. People think martial arts is about self-defense. In a way it is, but it's about defending yourself from the self. You know, it's not the external person. It's being able to overcome the garbage that you put in your brain, you know, and the garbage you're picking up and carrying with you, and
Mm-hmm.
being able to stay you no matter what. And that's really all it is. And we use the external stimulus of being punched at as a way to bring you in reality. I mean, it's one of those things where if you're thinking about what you're going to eat for dinner when you get done with class and you're sparring with me while you're thinking about that, you're going to get punched in the face. So it's
Indeed.
better for you to probably be in the moment, you know, and it forces it because there's immediate ramifications of not being in the moment. And again, you're not living your entire life like that, but you are taking that ability out into the real world, so to speak. So,
Rudy, sir, damn it. This is one of your common tricks where you refine things in such a simple way and break it down in very uh, easy bites to process. Don't be fooled out there, people. This gentleman has a more refined lens of martial arts and a perspective on the day-to-day perspective on the world than he often lets out. bottom line, you're always a wealth of knowledge, and I appreciate having the opportunity to talk to you.
Well, I appreciate you, man. It's very kind to say. I don't know. I'm excited about this. I appreciate it. I appreciate you taking the time. I know that you're a busy guy. Is there anything else? Because we could have a ton of other conversations about some of our experiences and all kind of stuff. But is there anything that you feel like we haven't touched upon, or anything you want to say before we wrap it up, in terms of just
Well,
body
yes and
practice?
yes and no. There's a bottomless pit of things that I hope to talk and work out with you. The immediate question is, when are we doing this again? Seriously,
Well, I mean, let's
this
do
is
another
great.
one soon. We'll do another one very soon. In the next
Okay.
week or two, we'll think about some other topics. But it's such a poignant story for me, and it's so central to the word mission might be strong, but why do I do Zen teachings? Um, I don't have answers for you other than what's already inside of you,
Hmm.
and I really think that if people can still their mind, and if they can, just respond well, they're going to have better lives. And to have such a ready-made, cut out, obvious, in-your-face example as Alexios Mithenos, um, it's awesome for me, and it's awesome for anybody who's thinking about practicing. So we will do it again very soon. Hopefully you'll be coming to town soon, or I'll get down there. I can actually see you.
Looking
But
forward to it. Although I do like this webcam stuff.
yeah, it's
Um,
neat, isn't it?
yeah, and a little. Does anyone know? I'm not even wearing pants.
Well, I'm wearing sweatpants, so I'm not dressed up either. But
No, I mean, we're joking around, but in all seriousness, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
yeah, no, for sure, man. Thank you, and I'll talk to you very soon. Is there any what else was I gonna say? No, that's it. I got nothing. So zenteachings.com. This will be on our website, on YouTube, on iTunes, all your regular places. If you enjoy the talks, if you enjoy the site, we do have a Patreon page set up, because this is all just kind of a labor of love, and it helps to pay our administrators and things like that. Otherwise, Al, I will talk to you soon.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Talk to you soon, bud.
Adios.
Bye.